All right, so on the phone with me is Dave Georgeson, the head developer for Tribes 2, the game that we've been playing for a while. So you're just coming back from E3, the Electronics Entertainment Expo. How do you think that went for you guys?
At E3?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't actually show Tribes 2 at E3. We just essentially went down there and watched other people's games and sort of played Tribes 2 on the PlayStation 2 for the first time.
Now, how did you think the PlayStation 2 port of Tribes 2 actually came, how that looked compared to the original?
It was really weird using the joypad to play Tribes 2, but in a lot of ways, after you play it for like 10 or 15 minutes, it's actually pretty darn cool. And they've added a lot of like reflectivity and bump mapping and stuff. In some ways, it even looks better than our game.
Uh-oh. But
no, it's good. They're still a ways away from getting it to work.
Right.
They're not close to releasing yet. But hey, it was cool. I mean, we were playing network at the show. There were about eight machines at the show. Like 4 of them were over at the PlayStation booth, and a few of them were over at the Sierra booth, and they were all playing together in a capture the flag game. On the map was whiteout, and it was pretty cool. It was fun.
Now, did you find it a little? You said the controls for the PlayStation 2, you had to play with the joystick. Did you find it at all like the lack of a keyboard and mouse kind of not make the Tribes 2 experience on the PlayStation as great as it is on the PC?
Well, it totally drove me crazy when I first started playing it. It was just so alien. You get so used to keyboard and mouse, but well, you have to think of it this way. There's really seriously 2 different groups of gamers. There's console gamers and there's PC gamers. And they usually don't cross over much. I mean, if you're playing the PC game already, you're probably not going to rush out in a buying frenzy and buy the PlayStation 2 version. But the people that buy the console games, they're playing PlayStation 2, they probably will really dig it. I mean, it's very fun.
Now, it's true that the PlayStation 2 players will not be playing on the same servers as the PC gamers. Is that correct?
No, we wanted to do that. We looked into it really hard, but quite honestly, there's a couple of things in the way. One of them is the memory restrictions on the PlayStation 2 are just so severe that they had to change the game somewhat to be able to make it work at all.
Right.
And then the other thing is that consoles can't do patches. Period. So, like when we're upgrading our game and doing all kinds of cool things to it, there's no way that the PlayStation 2 people could keep up. So there's absolutely no way that it would work.
Well, what about will there ever be a Tribes 2 for the Xbox? Because with the hard drive, you would maybe be able to give the game a patch ability.
Well, I'll tell you, we pitched it to the Xbox folks, and they seemed really excited. But I think what happened, well, there's a couple of reasons probably, but one of them is, they own Halo.
Right.
And they're probably not really going to want us to go show up their prize little project.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll give you a second thought after Halo's released and flops.
Well, I don't think it's going to flop. Actually, I looked at the show really hard, and it's a pretty darn cool console product. It looks really nice.
I think the premise, right? And sorry to interrupt. I think the premise that it came out with, which was as a competition to Tribes 2, kind of changed, and now it's become more of its own type of genre.
Yeah. If they stay first person, let me try that again. If they stay single player, I think it's going to be a really cool game. Multiplayer, I watched their multiplayer at the show, and they had it like split screen with 4 players, and that's bogus. I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
If they're gonna play multiplayer, they need to have a net connection.
It's kind of like the old N64 with the GoldenEye and the to Perfect Dark, where you had 4 screens split, and the frame rates were chopped in like half, and it was just very hard to play. You had to squint to see your character. So if they, so hopefully if they,
when you're only getting a quarter of what is it? I forget exactly what the console dimensions are, but let's say 640 by 480 is actually better than a TV screen. We're only getting a quarter of that screen. It's not a lot of room.
Yeah. So we talked about Tribes 2 for the PlayStation 2. Let's talk about Tribes 2 for the PC. Your baby. What do you think the overall response is to the latest patch that came out, which changed scoring changed the visible distance. I know there was a thread by TSN's own Pub Night which compared this patch to the out-of-the-box version. And basically, do you want to talk about that, like what changes you made to improve frame rates and what else you guys are doing to improve on frame rates?
Sure, no problem. What we did was when we went through, well, people hate the fog, and there's no two ways around that. But the fact of the matter is, there were several maps that were in the game. I mean, you'll notice that only 4 CTF maps changed. That's the only ones we changed. And the reason why we changed them was, quite honestly, they were they were frame rate pigs. And so what we did, well, on some cards they were frame rate pigs. And so what we did was we went in there and evened them out so they had approximately the same frame rate as the other map. And then what we did was we spent a lot of time doing optimization, terrain occlusion, object occlusion. There were some things that we could do with the navigation HUD so that it used a lot less time. We've just been doing tons and tons and tons of code optimization. And together, all of those, there's another patch coming out probably early next week, and then we've done more work this week. See, the part that's difficult for us to remember sometimes is we're approximately 2 weeks ahead of you folks.
Right.
So we've already done a bunch of work.
It's practically the QA guys that are holding everything up.
No, they're not holding it up. They need to test it the way that, I mean, yes, they're technically holding it up, but they're doing their job, which is making sure that we're not screwing up the patch.
Now, is the visible distance with the fog being decreased with the latest patch? Is that like, you know, it's been brought up? Is that a temporary fix? Will this be changed later on as computers become more powerful and the ability to run Tribes 2? You know, the frame rates will be increased over time.
That's entirely possible. We haven't really considered it too much because right now we just want to make sure that essentially people are getting the same experience from map to map, not having certain maps just, you know, like bottom out and certain maps be really high. We wanted all the maps to have approximately the same frame rate because that way as we improve everything, everybody's getting the same lift across the board and you don't get like certain situations. I mean, as a player, one of the things that I absolutely hate is, you know, like you can get along with a 15 or 20 frame rate and be happy with it unless it spikes. You know, like if it goes up to 40 and then it goes down to 5 and then it goes up to, 50 and then it goes down to 15, it's really, really aggravating and annoying. But if you have like an even 15 or an even 20 or an even 30 or an even 40, it's a good play experience.
Right. I personally noticed, on a personal note, that my frame rates practically didn't increase with the latest patch, but they didn't decrease either, but they stayed the same throughout the map instead of like going up, spiking, dropping down, and then going all over the map. I think, was that one of the optimizations? So you're saying that was one of the optimizations that came out with the latest and should be improved upon as well? Yeah, we did a ton of optimizations. And I was kind of watching the stuff go by on the IRC channel. Don't worry, we're not shooting for 15 to 20 frames per second. We're not doing that. Now, what exactly is the benchmark that you're using at the Sierra? This is probably asked a while ago, but what exactly are you guys benchmarking the system on over at your offices? Like what video card and processor?
Well, what we were doing this time around was we were specifically targeting the Voodoo and trying to make sure, actually specifically the Voodoo 3. Oddly enough, the Voodoo 2 was actually performing better than the Voodoo 3 because the Voodoo 2 has the mini GL drivers, whereas the Voodoo 3 relied on the regular open GL drivers. So what we did was we spent a lot of time working on a P2 300 with a Voodoo 3, 128 megs of RAM, and then trying to make sure that the frame rate was as good as it could get. And that's what we were using to benchmark all of the maps and make sure that they were all even after we were done with the patches.
Okay. On the same subject of patches, but off the frame rates. Some people are wondering, and they're private messaging me their questions, but please don't private message me your questions, or Dave, Kicks. They were wondering if heavy skiing, the physics of heavies were any way altered in this patch, because some people are feeling like the physics have been altered and that skiing is entirely an easier thing to do with heavies. Was that in any way, altered with this new patch?
Yes. I thought that was in the patch update.txt.
No, it wasn't. That's why people were wondering about that. So maybe you can clarify it now.
Well, okay, then, here goes. The foot speed of all armors was increased by 15%, and the jet power of all armors was increased by 10%. And then what I did was I went through and looked at the numbers for the air resistance, the up resistance, and the horizontal resistance, and there's all kinds of variables that I can tweak. And I made sure that essentially the light, medium, heavy was comparatively a smooth ramp. There were some numbers that were pretty out of whack. Like, for instance, I think it was up resistance, the air resistance, was like 30, 20, 35. And so the medium was didn't have very good skiing. And I think it was essentially just a typo. So I went in and changed it so it was 30 and then 32 and then 35. And I tweaked those back and forth. So the medium got quite a bit more proficient at skiing, and the heavy got a little bit better because of some of the tweaks that we made. The light was about the same.
Now, was this something that you guys were always trying to fix up on, or was this only brought about with the community through Tribal War, on the forums saying, how skiing needed to be increased?
Well, actually, what I was looking at was the fact that, I've been watching those threads a lot. Whether I reply to them or not, I read almost everything. I frankly don't have a life.
Don't worry, neither do we.
But anyway, I was looking at the stuff, and there were a bunch of commentaries about like what they thought should be improved and what they shouldn't be improved. But there was a general thread that went through that basically said that the gameplay was a little bit slow compared to Tribes 1. So what I did was I went in and I looked at it, and I was trying to figure out, well, why does it feel slow? And we were trying to figure out all kinds of things, and the changes that were made were essentially made to make it feel a bit faster. Because even the dev team was agreeing that it seemed to take a long time to go from point A to point B. So we fixed it.
Now, is this the last physics adjustment that will be made, or can we expect to see any more down the road?
The game will be ever evolving. The only reason why we would stop making gameplay changes is if we were running leagues. Like a league that was taking like 3 months to finish a season.
Right.
If we start doing seasons, then we won't make gameplay changes during the seasons. We'll save them up for the end of the season.
Okay. Now, talking about other Tribes 2 things aside from the patch, recently there have been some releases of cheats. I don't know if you would want to call them cheats, but like wall hacks where people could look through walls. I saw some of the screenshots. They didn't look all too like, oh, this is going to alter the game. But how are you guys responding to this? And not just this cheat, but cheats in general.
Well, people that use cheats are pretty serious losers. I mean, it's a game, and if you want to play the game, then you should play the game. And if you want to use cheats, well, then go do something else. I mean, just don't waste people's time. As it goes, as it stands, we're going to go ahead and work on preventing a lot of that cheat. The OpenGL hack that's being used right now is something that we really can't do much about to prevent. In fact, there's no way that we can detect whether the DLL is being used. But one of the things we can do is make sure that stuff that's not supposed to be drawn isn't drawn. Therefore, when you use the OpenGL hack, you won't be able to actually see much beyond the wall that you're trying to look through.
Right. Now,
so it'll be a while before we do that, but it is something that can be solved.
What about would you guys support, like in any form, the use of like programs such as Punkbuster to prevent Tribes 2 cheating, as it is used in Half-Life and Counter-Strike?
Punkbusters is an opportunity to look at. I'm not really super familiar with it, and I'm not sure how effective it is.
All right. On another note, some disciple wanted to know in the chat room, when will the demo feature, out of all things, when will the demo feature? It is important to these teams. When will they be? When will it be implemented?
I totally want it in the game too. We have essentially it's written, but it's got like 18 or 20 bugs, and one of the things we're going to do right now is we're just finishing, and I know nobody out there that owns the game really cares about this. But we're just finishing the demo. We just wrapped it up tonight, and it's going to go into QA. Next week we're going to start fixing bugs. We have a database that's been accumulating, and some of the stuff that we want to do has all been in the tracker database, our bug database. Some of the stuff that we want to fix is the demo version. We have a couple of what we term critical bugs, and yes, one of them is the flag skip bug that we're gonna fix soon. I don't really have an ETA on when the demo is going to be done, but it's a high priority for us.
And now, going back to the patch and the change in scoring, what do you think the response has been so far on this scoring change?
Well, I think mostly the scoring change stuff was a tempest in a teapot to a certain extent. What's happened since we released it was we got lots of negative feedback before we released it, and then lots of negative feedback for the first week or so after we released it, and then pretty much it's mellowed out where I'm seeing a lot of posts about people saying, well, I thought it was going to suck, but it's really not that big a deal, which is what I thought. And the pub play is a lot better because of it. We may get around to doing something for the higher level OGO, ladder stuff later on, but for right now, we want to make the game as much fun as possible in the pub play because that's where the vast majority of players are.
Right. Now, you're saying that, do you believe that scoring change was only geared towards pub play, or do you not agree with the moves that the leagues, such as the OGL and the Team Warfare League, made to totally disregard that new scoring change?
Well, I don't know why. I honestly don't think it's a big enough difference to make it. I've read all the threads. I've read all the arguments. I've read all the discussion about whether it's good or not. I watched people like brand it, touch the flag and all that stuff. But quite honestly, if you play capture the flag and your goal is to capture the flag, that makes no difference at all. The only thing that it does is prevent. Reduce the frequency for a need for a sudden death overtime. There can still be a case where it's like 205 to 205, and if that's the case, then you can go into sudden death, and maybe even the first touch wins or something. But most of the time, the most aggressive team wins. Period.
Now going a little forward with Tribes 2, now that the GeForce 3 is starting to become mainstream, how does Tribes 2 handle the GeForce 3? Does it utilize the enhancements that are in the GeForce 3 with anti-aliasing, so on and so forth? Like, would you recommend to the Tribes 2 player to go out and upgrade, if they haven't done so already, upgrade their machine to a GeForce 3?
To be honest, we don't have a GeForce 3 in-house yet. NVIDIA is going to send us one soon, and then we're going to be able to do a bunch of optimization work on it, but that has not been done. It is faster. The card's a ton faster than the TF2. So by the merit of the actual card, it's faster on our game, but we haven't done all the window dress, the cool features to the TF3 yet.
I'm a lot of questions myself. I'm trying to think of some in my head. But if you have anything you would like to say right now while you're on the air, while you got a bunch of 100 and some odd, 130, 40 people listening, just go right ahead, and I'll try and think of some more questions. I'll let you get to your dinner.
Well, dinner's done now, but all I can say is that if anybody thinks that the game is good, then tell a couple of friends, would you? We got a bad rep at the beginning. Quite honestly, we deserved it to a certain extent. We had some bad frame rates and some poor performance and it wasn't much. It was just, we had some bad impressions at the beginning. And I think the game's a lot better than it was at the beginning. And if you like the game, then tell a couple of friends because, the more the merrier. And if we get a bunch of people in, we can do more. We can support the game for a longer period of time. That's it.
All right. So practically, the message that we try to get out here tonight was, they're working on optimizing the game even further. They're not done. They're going to try and make the game as great as you want it to be, and they're working hard. And I'm going to let you get to your meal, Dave. Thanks a lot for calling in. By the way, Messiah has extended an invitation to you and your friends to join him and the rest of the Tribes community in a pickup later tonight if you're done with your meal.
Cool. What game? What server?
I'll have that info. I wish Messiah would PM me the info right now, but I don't have it right. He doesn't have it. But if you want to continue listening here, I'm sure I'll be announcing it a little later when Messiah throws it by me.
I'll just watch the IRC.
It's probably going to be 5150 West, but that's probably going to be it.
Well, tell him not to send me an email because my in-game email it was totally besieged by moderator requests.
Yeah, Messiah's telling me it's 5150 Competition West, and hopefully maybe he'll PM you some info regarding that. All right, thanks a lot, Dave, for calling in.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. That was Dave Georgeson, the lead developer for Dynamix, just giving us a random call. You never know what's going to happen here on TSN. Dave Georgeson calling in. Awesome. Stay tuned. Got some more music here. Taking your phone calls. We'll talk about whatever Dave just talked about. So people who thought that skiing was altered, you were right. Dave confirmed it here tonight. 15%. Stay tuned.